So welcome to another sports car story. This is an update on our quest to replicate this model, which is the GT Spirit model of a John Steed car from the new Avengers, which was a show in the mid-70s with John Steed, who was sort of a James Bond-esque character. And we're building this car. If you haven't seen the previous videos, have a look. But so we're building this car to look like this. And we're going to show you some of the challenges today that we've come against. It's finally come back from Fibresport. It's taken longer than we thought. But the main focus I want to really have today is on the wheels. I've been very lucky. There's a chap called Robin Izzard who's contacted us through YouTube. He lives in Daventry, and he's built an extraordinary Broadspeed race replica. Apart from anything else, he's going to help us get the wheels right. He's loaned us his wheels to put on this car, but also later in the video we're going to go and look at his car and how his wheels fit and how to get that right. It's an amazing car, so stay tuned for that. And at the very end of the video we're going to look at one of the original cars at the British Motor Museum, so just have a quick comparison with that. We're thinking about going to some events this year, so keep an eye on our website and on X to see where we might be popping up, because it'd be nice to meet up with some of you guys, either with this car or with an E-Type, so keep an eye out. Just want to show you these wheels first of all, and I wouldn't mind everyone's opinion as to whether they look right, because they're bigger wheels than the Steed car, but I think actually they work. But I wouldn't mind your opinion out there. What do you think of these wheels? Do you think they work with the car? They're slightly further inboard on the front, which can't see from that angle, but we've got to make sure that the wheels can go to full lock. So that's a bit of an issue, because we're always fighting between what looks right and what's going to drive right. So the fronts are going to be slightly more inboard than I want, but I think Robin's got the same issue on his, and if you want to be able to drive it, then it becomes an important thing to think about. This is the first time you've seen the car since it's come back from Fibersports. I'm so pleased with it. I know I said it at Fibersports. I'm still pleased with the way that the kit's gone on, and I'll show you some close-ups of this vent here. But there's a lot of work went in that. It was delayed because again, it was another YouTube person who pointed out to me that it wasn't quite right. There's a little bit in front of that vent which just channels the air into it. That's on the Steed car. I hadn't noticed, but it is one of those things that you've got to get right. So that took an extra bit of work. I will say there's an opportunity for anybody who wants to do a Steed replica. We've in effect produced a Steed kit at Fibersports, because it's so different from the Broadspeed race kit, which everybody has been getting up to now. So if you're interested in the Steed kit and you contact Fibersports, if you mention Sports Car Story, you'll get a discount on it. But we've now developed this Steed kit, or Steve has with my money. But so it's going to be much easier for the next person to do it, which includes the front spoiler, and it includes these vents and also the rear valance as well, which is very different. That obviously show this bit under here, and very different from the race car. So. Steve at Fibersports also cut this bumper short, which is, again, something I wasn't aware of when it went there, but obviously it would have come further along that wing. There's still an issue with the bumper, because the overriders actually connect two bits of the bumper. So if you take the overriders off, there's a gap. So somehow we've got to make that one bumper, whether we just get it welded together and then painted, or whether we use the bumper for a mould and get a fiberglass bumper, which I think the original car had. I don't know, it's one of the issues we've got. Another issue that we've got is the hinges on the front. I thought that I was a bit worried that they would be bespoke to the Steed car, but somebody contacted me from the States and mentioned that they're actually US spec hinges, because the US cars have got a big rubber bumper on them, so they had little hinges. And funny enough, in the States, when they're trying to put chrome bumpers back on, they want the big hinge section that I've got on this car. So hopefully we'll do a swap on that with this chap in the West Coast. So thank you very much. So that should be something that we can sort out. If you look at the front spoiler, you can see we did compromise in getting it so that it's not too close to the ground, but at the same time looks as good as the Steed car. I think we've managed it. Wouldn't mind your opinion on that. And the last thing that Steve at Fibresport, he made the front grille slightly taller than even I had it, an extra couple of vanes. It's trying to get that right. So it's very difficult to know how many vanes go in that front grille, but again, I think we're just about there on that. I just want to show you this dashboard. This was made for me by Paul at Myrtle down in Kent, and we're so lucky in the UK to have artisans like this that can make fabulous bits and pieces for your car, whether it's a dashboard or exhaust or anything like that. We've got brilliant artisans that can produce these things. Paul doesn't even need the original. You can just phone him up and say, I want a Series 2 or a Series 3 dash in mahogany or in walnut, whatever the finish, and you just get this within a few weeks. It's just extraordinary. And I know Harry Metcalf got his dashboard from there, and I'm just so lucky to have these people around the country doing different things. So I do recommend them. Anybody who is thinking about getting their dashboard done properly on a Rolls-Royce or Bentley or Jaguar or Triumph, here's your man. Also wanted to show you my seats, which were already retrimmed in black, and I've still got the dilemma of they should be beige, really. So we'll cross that bridge. It's not a priority. Let's get it going as it is now. I mean, the impetus for this is still that model car. I still want to base this car on that model. So anything that you can see that's different on the model, please let me know, because I want to really use that to drive it. The model works so well. Whoever did that model in the first place did a fantastic job. If anything, it looks better than the Steed car sometimes. I think it's just incredible. So, and if you can see any other changes, let me know. But we are getting there. It's back here at Adrian's ADR Engineering in Wokingham, and he's going to press on with the mechanics now. So we're not going to go to paint yet. We're going to get this as a driving car. Anyway, let's go to Robin's workshop in Daventry, have a look at these wheels on his car. So here we are in Robin's workshop, Robin Izzard. Thank you very much for this, Robin. And this is his car, which is amazing, so I really appreciate this. But I've got to stay focused on these wheels. That's what this is about today, is to try and get our wheels right on the Steed car, and this is a major clue to that. So if we can go through this, Robin, what size are these wheels?
These are technically, they're 19 inches, and width of them is 13 inch. And to put it into layman's terms, the offset is about central. So we've got about 45% inset, 55% on the offset.
Right.
Offset being the sticky out bit.
The sticky out bit. Okay. Purely, this is me being selfish now. It's pretty much as far out as it can be, isn't it?
Yes.
Legally.
Yep.
Could it go out another extra inch, or that's about it, isn't it?
The issue you got with anything when you start and put larger wheels on is that you've always got an inner lip. And these being fiberglass, you can feel there's about ½ an inch of underlip.
Yeah.
Obviously to give the arch its strength. So it's avoidance of getting the contact between that tyre and that lip.
And you're pretty confident that you've pushed it out as far as you can, and you've never had a problem.
Never had a problem.
And it looks like it's filled the arches. Is it going to be possible, again, for me to have a higher tyre on that wheel size without hitting the arch?
I think, if anything, instead of going 19 inch, which this is, I would probably go certainly 18, maybe even 17 inch.
And just have a thicker,
and a taller
profile tyre.
It'll give you a much more comfortable ride, because the thing with any narrow-walled tyre, as this is, there's very little give in it.
Yeah.
You know,
I suppose, again, it's back to what did the Steed car look like? And they look like low-profile tyres, really.
Right.
But also, I know it drove like a terrible thing. So it's trying to get that combination right, isn't it?
Yes, it is. The other thing is, 19-inch tyres tend to be a bit more on the expensive side, and there's not always a tremendous range available to be able to...
well, I've got to look at that as well. If I go 18, will I get the tyre profile and the thing to match? So,
Yes.
So this is a 305/30.
Correct, 19.
ZR19.
Yes.
And the 30 refers to what?
Ultimately, it is the profile. I think I'm right in saying it's a percentage That's sort of a percentage of the original tyre size.
Oh, I see.
And that actually denotes the wheel height, because going back in the old days, they were sort of 70s, 60s, and as...
So if I can go 18 and that's 40, then it would be...
Yeah, it's a slightly taller wall on it.
OK. And if we can have a look at this with the wheels off, because I'm worried about the wheel arch as well, but we can look at that once you get these wheels off. Yeah. Can we have a quick look at the front wheel now?
Certainly, yes.
Because that's another issue, because it looks quite inboard, this front wheel.
Part of the... One of the things with the front wheel is that we try to go wider, because when you look at the original car, which is in the museum, you'll find that this front wheel is literally right on the edge of the wheel arch.
Right.
My issue was that if I did that, if I tried to recreate that, it would actually foul on the front and the rear of this wheel.
When it's on a lock?
On a lock, yes. Yeah. So it's a compromise that I had to take ultimately. So this is not quite so wide. This one actually comes out 10 inches. Just
and this is from a width. That's what I've got to do as well, really, haven't I?
Yeah.
And did you have the inner wheel arch problem with the fronts as well?
No, because again, I did trim that off. And generally speaking, there is more material that needs to be removed on the rear end than there is on the front end, on the arch. So, and again, it's an empty arch. I mean, technically speaking, my two fingers are now touching.
Oh, I see.
There is no
so
inner...
you could get a stone chip or something that's too
theory,
thick, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if I just look at the rolling radius of that, I can work within that. I can go down to 18s, but keep the same rolling radius. I'm fine.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a question: can I get the tyres to fill that rolling radius?
Yeah, I think actually when you look at the price of tyres relative to the cost of the wheels, tyres are quite immaterial, really.
Yeah.
These are an image of a great company, but they are an expensive wheel ultimately.
Yeah.
And also, for what it's worth, like everything in life over the last 2 or 3 years, they've obviously gone up quite substantially.
Everything's gone up.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
Yeah. So what tyre size are on this?
We are on this one. We are on 225, 40 by 19. So 40 again is a slightly taller wall on it.
Right. Is that taller than the back?
Yeah, in theory.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
They look right. That's the thing, Robin. This car looks fab, and the wheels look right. It's just trying to get that Steed.
Ultimately, I don't think it's the size that you're going to struggle with. I think you'll have options on the size. The difficulty for you is getting that GKN insert, getting that GKN appearance.
Yeah.
And where people have gone down the road of doing a Steed Replica previously, just got totally the wrong wheels on it.
Yeah, and it shows, you know.
It does. It does.
But what I'm interested in, your opinion, is if this was a Steed design, do you think it would look too big?
No.
No. and you know, YouTube out there, I wouldn't mind your opinions on that. Do these wheels look too big for a Steed car, or do you think they should be smaller wheels, bigger profile tyre? That's the question, I suppose, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
And whether you notice an inch, no one ever notices an inch, really. But
I think, again, you really have to sit and study significantly and the pictures that you've got of Steed and try and work out exactly what size wheels are on it.
Yeah, I think they were 16s. They were really small. That's the guy in, I think he's in Holland, said they were 16s. So, but a very funny size. So there's not going to be 16s.
I mean, it's feasible because we are getting to a point. What we're looking at 76, so we're coming towards 50 years ago. Well, tyre availability 50 years ago is nowhere near as good as it is now.
No, it's gone mad.
Yes.
So one thing I was going to say when I'm talking to YouTube is if anybody wants to collaborate on getting a Steed wheel, because there's going to be expense associated with getting that pattern. So if anybody wants to come in with me, if we get 3 or 4 people that are doing Steed car to come in on the wheels, I think it would be worthwhile. Anyway, let me know in the comments if you can do that. I'll be very interested. But anyway, if we can see this car with the wheels off now, that would be great, Robin. That would be possible. Thank you very much. So now we've got the wheels off. Robin, can you talk us through what I've got to worry about as far as making sure that the tyres don't rub the inner wheel arch? Because that's another thing I'm stressing about.
Let me just get a sample of the actual wheel arch.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, this is our Fibresport component. Ultimately, that's what we will have fitted to the car prior to the paint and everything being fitted on. Now, there's two things here. One is that from previous pictures, you will have seen that Fibresport's actually ground out a whole load of steel.
And then bent it up like that, isn't it?
And then bent it up. Now, ultimately, what we're looking for is clearance for that fat tyre when it goes that way.
Yeah.
And the other aspect to it was that I did all that work prior to obviously fitting on the fiberglass.
So you did it before, whereas we've got it fitted now, which might be an issue.
Yeah, I think we can resolve everything, but ultimately what I did, I used the term tubbed. So I found the highest point of the wheel arch and literally went lateral with it.
So just squared it?
Absolutely squared it. So if I was to draw you a picture, it would literally be a 90-degree with a turn on it. So when we go up there, there's nothing there.
So I might have to have a really good look to see if they've done that or whether I need to do that.
Correct, yeah. I think it's one of those things that I'd like to think it was a bit of common sense, but what we're realistically doing is to try and get as much clearance as we can. The fronts are not too much of an issue, but the rears, because you have bump stops. And on that subject, there's a little bit of a profile on here that remains on the actual chassis itself, but the bump stop was removed.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the issues we had when the car was... Our car had the wheels on that Adrian hadn't taken the bump stops yet, so we haven't really seen how it fits properly yet.
So what that allowed us to do, and I think recently we measured the rear wheel. The rear wheel is about 13 inches wide. So removal of that bump stop was important because it would overhang off the side of the chassis. Yeah. And obviously gives us a clearance. And the other thing is that it was important when we actually come to setting the wheels and making sure everything was as needed. Absolutely didn't use any spacers whatsoever. Yeah, I see. If I can avoid spacers, I will. I think it's an easy route to go down. A lot of people say, oh, you know, just bang a spacer on. But what that does to me, that effectively loads the studs, it loads the bearings. It's not great engineering in the end, is it? It's not, no. But I might have to, so I'm not going to complain too much. Yeah. I think the other thing is you've got to look to see what you're doing with the car. And whilst you'll probably give it some beans, nothing like what you're doing with this. Yeah, when we go on track with this, and it's not a racetrack, it's only track days, you are pushing it to its limit. So obviously that's an aspect you need to take into account. And plus the fact, if I look at these studs, they're 35, 40 mil. They're not any great length. So by the time you put your spacer on there, that's really making it. You'd have to put a longer stud in, maybe. Yeah. So you've actually got to take that hub off, insert some longer studs to take it and accept it. And while we've got the wheel off, you've got adjustable suspension as well on this, haven't you? There is, yes. These damper units, they're gas units, and technically they're sold as a lowered spring for the Jaguar for its own subframe. Is this otherwise a standard Jaguar rear suspension? Yes. Yeah. So, the negative side of this, if we talk about that, it's got inboard brakes. Yeah. And the inboard brakes were never fantastic, and the size of the calipers isn't, you know, it's not that good. Did the race car have inboards? Yes, it did. So that's probably what helped to let it down, really. Well, this is all part of the ventilation, actually, the airflow process of actually going in at the front end of this arch. It was ducted, went through, and then exhausted out the back end. So do they have a bigger duct going right into the... Yeah. No, it came through, and it was ducting, literally shoving air into the into the centre of the thing. So it wasn't pretend with the race car. They really needed that duct. Just pretend on the Steed car. Yeah, that's right. And I haven't got anything connected to that. But what we did do, when I uprated the front end, we went to Alcon brakes on this one. And Mr. Alcon was very good in as much as he sat there with a computer and he put all the technical data into it, like the weight of the car and the balance of the car and ratios of front and rear. And he came up with a plan. And braking wise, I have two master cylinders. Oh, right. So there's a master cylinder that suits the front, which is Alcon. All right, I see. And a master cylinder that suits the rear, which is Jaguar. But in percentage, what they're telling me, and I'm no expert at it, is that you're getting 70-75% of your braking effect on the front end.
On the front, where the
Yes.
weight is. Yeah.
Similar to a motorcycle.
See, I haven't even thought about that. But as I say, it's a road car, and a
Yeah.
lot of that will be feel. You know, if I'm locking up the fronts all the time or whatever, I can start
it.
adjusting as appropriately. As long as
Yes.
it works, I'm happy at the beginning and just don't drive like a lunatic.
No,
Whereas if it's
I
a
mean,
race car, you've got to get it right. haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen, thank you for all your help, Robin, with this, because I didn't know where to start. So I really appreciate you helping out with this today.
Yeah.
Looking forward to doing a full video on your car. Are you up for that?
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things. I mean, I do feel unfortunate in as much as I've got it road registered and I can use it on the road, but it's quite a blistering experience, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind go to one of your track days. Actually, that's what
Yes,
I'm thinking.
yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that makes it really raw, which of course you won't experience, is there's no sound deadening.
No.
There's no rubber seals. There's no rubber engine mounts. You know, all those things that give you comfort in a road car are not built into this. So
No.
it's a pretty raw product,
Yeah.
really.
It would have scared John Steed, wouldn't it?
Possibly.
Thanks very much.
Deep down, he was only an actor.
Thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your help. Oh, and one more thing before you go. I ask everyone this. What's the car that got away for you? What's the car that you wish you'd never sold? The one car.
I don't know. I have got through quite a few cars over the years, most of which were self-built. I don't think I've any significant regrets. The thing that I will say to you now is that this car has generated as much conversation as the other 10 that I did let go. So I think, to be fair, if I had to sell everything that I owned, then this is the one that I would hang on to, because it is very unique in many respects.
That's really interesting. Thanks again, Robin. That's really interesting. That makes me feel better that I'm doing the right thing.
Yes, it's.
I'm a bit disappointed that I can't buy it off you, though. There we go. Thanks a lot. Quick bonus at the end here, because this is the original race car. We just came back via Gaydon, and I do say to anybody who's interested in this, come and have a look at this, because it's amazing to see the real thing. One thing we've noticed, this wheel and tyre is right to the edge of the wheel arch, which it's probably not that practical. There's this lip is so close to the tyre, and it hasn't got a lip on it now. It's flat as you like just there, so that's really interesting to see. I can't see what tyre size it is or anything. And as far as the front wheel, it is still quite inboard, so I'm not too worried about that. That's the best we can do on that front. But gosh, let me get out of the picture. Have a proper look at this car, because it is extraordinary. That's part of our DNA, chaps. If you remember the 70s, you remember this car for sure. And it's all part of the John Steed Broadspeed whole mythology, I suppose, and that we're all dialed into. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.